Started.
Sugar Islander. Here we go. Let's see. I played d4 recently. Let's try c4. And knight c3. So there's a reverse Sicilian again. See if I can handle the opening a little better than last time. So he goes directly for this attack, countering the bishop's attack and control of the d5 square here by playing c6. And then this move with the bishop also undermines these squares. Let's defend with the queen. And my idea is I want to take back with a piece here and not mess up my pawns. And let's see, he can come in and harass the queen from those two squares, but they're both covered. Okay, so he can go directly to that square. I can take, and he can come back with the queen, the pawn, or the knight. Can leave it there. It's not bad. Just open up a line for the bishop. And then maybe the knight will come to f3 and I'll castle. That's a possible scenario. And if he takes, I want to take back and keep a pawn on pawn on c4, but he didn't take, so he just pushes. So let's bring the queen back. Now at this square, d7. I know I'm in front of the bishop, but I'm planning to play the b-pawn up, and that will give this bishop some squares. Now I'm wondering about the knight. Knight f3, and if he pushes, I can take, and nothing is hanging. Knight takes, and the queen has to move. Yeah, I don't know if I like it that much. I can play e4, locking the position down. If he takes en passant, I'll just take with the pawn. Kind of closing the center. It shuts in my bishop here, but I guess I can think of repositioning the bishop on a different diagonal. Mainly I would like to be able to play knight f3 and castle without being harassed too much. And in this pawn formation, these are all knight squares, so this bishop back here is my good bishop, and this is the bad bishop. But, well, these things can change during a game. And let's see, black. Black gave up his bishop, so... I guess I have the two bishop advantage here. So what is black's plan here? Knight, the bishop out to g5 is possible. g4, knight g4. Developing this knight somewhere. Just closing up the center. Okay, so knight f3 and castle is my plan. And this needs to be defended here on e5. He defends with a knight, and I castle. Now I can think of knight to h4 to f5. He would have to counter with g5, which would weaken him on the dark squares. And with this e-pawn out of the way, I could move my queen over to e7, come out maybe that way. Maybe not. Looks like all those squares are covered. We'll see. He can bring his knight into b4 here, attacking these squares, but I can just kick it. It might have been a better plan for him to leave his pawn back on c6 and play his knight to d7 to c4. Might have somewhat of an outpost there. He might have to throw in a5. So his knight d7, c5, and then a5 with the pawn to secure that outpost for the knight, and then sort of keep pressure against these pawns here, particularly the backwards d pawn, d3. And he's got a good bishop, so he can't complain about that. So knight h4 here. His plan, I think, is just to develop his rooks and maybe try and expand on the queen side. So I'm going to treat this like a King's Indian reversed, sort of, and play for f4, f5, maybe attack on the king side. Or maybe I leave the pawn on f4 and try and bring the knight back to f3 to put pressure on e5 here. That's another idea. And if he takes, I take with a pawn, and that gives me good central control, and my king is relatively safe with all these pieces around. Okay, rook b8. So he's planning to push the b pawn, and I was sort of expecting that. So I'm going to play a waiting game on the queen side here. If he pushes there, I could just defend the c pawn with b3 and let him continue to expand. So in the meantime, I'll try and expand on the king side here. So knight f3, queen f2 even. Is that maybe an idea? Leaves d3 undefended. I have to be careful about that. Oh, maybe it's okay. Knight f3 and queen f2, and then if he plays his knight to b4, attacking this pawn, I have knight takes e5, defending that pawn. So I don't want to give up my d pawn. I want to hold that there. So when he takes, I want to take back with the b pawn. Or he can push and go for a space advantage on the queen side. He did. So I'm going ahead with my plan, which is knight f3, putting pressure on e5 here. This pawn on b4 takes away the b4 square from the knight. Maybe that's handy for me. In fact, this knight is now hemmed in by his own pawns. So queen over here. Threatening take, knight takes, or maybe I don't take. I take, knight takes, I leave it there and develop my bishop to g5 and threaten along the g file. That's threatening knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes. So queen there, he still's got to retake with the knight. Now I am giving him a square for his knight. I maybe should have thought about that some more. So, two possibilities for the bishop. The bishop could come to f4 or to g5. On f4 it pins that knight. Knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes. Wins the exchange. Can he defend that knight? He can take this knight with check. I take back and his queen is hanging. And but he just has to move his queen. So bishop f4, knight takes f3 check, queen takes f3, and queen moves. The queen moves and I take the rook. I think this is winning the exchange. Now Not so quick. Here's the other point. Bishop f4, knight takes d3. The d3 pawn is undefended. I knew that was a weak point. So bishop here, knight takes d3. Bishop takes queen, knight takes queen, bishop takes rook. Still wins the exchange. Okay, I'm going for it. Yeah, so this only works because the queen and the rook happen to be on the same diagonal. And I also have the threat, after getting rid of the bishop, of pushing this pawn and chasing the knight away. Now I need to support the pawn, so maybe rook. Bishop takes rook, rook takes, or queen takes. Play my rook to e1 and threaten to push this pawn, chase the knight away, and gang up on f7 there. Queen there. Defends the knight. Is it any better to push the pawn first? If I push the pawn, knight comes here or here, and my bishop is kind of blocked in, so I don't get a tempo particularly. He has no... Oh, he took with the rook. So this should be good for me, because the knight can't defend the f7 square. He should have probably taken with the queen to keep a rook on this e-pawn, prevent it from advancing. So I don't see any tricks. Let's see, what is there? There's bishop to g5 here, hitting the queen. Yeah, that's a good trick, isn't it? I go here, he can move the knight attacking the queen, but I still get, yeah, I don't think that's good enough. He gets bishop here. Let's think about this. So I move the queen out of the way, the bishop can come to e2, hitting the rook and the pawn. I take the knight then, he takes the rook. Well, that's two pieces for a rook. That's got to be good. If he moves the knight, then I take on f7 with check. Or if he moves the knight, I take the bishop. So I think he has to move the bishop here. Yeah, so I can grab the knight here. And if he grabs the rook, I get the bishop. And I'm a piece up, because I won the exchange, and then he won a rook, but for two pieces. So the net result is I'm a bishop up. And I can bring my bishop here to d5 to intensify the pressure on f7. He can bring his rook to this square or this square. I think I can go ahead with the threat on f7. This has got to be mate.
Checkmate.
Yeah, it is mate. Okay, interesting game, I thought. Kind of one-sided, but, well, hope there's something you guys can find instructive about that. And so I'm going to do a post-mortem, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.